As the private jet glided effortlessly through the clouds, Snoop Dogg reclined in his seat, a chilled glass of champagne resting lightly in his hand. The weight of the past few weeks, weeks filled with conflict, humiliation, and relentless determination, began to fade with every passing moment. Beyond the windows, the infinite stretch of blue sky reflected the freedom and peace he had so desperately sought. For the first time in what felt like ages, Snoop exhaled deeply, his mind finally at ease. The events of the past weeks replayed in his mind like a storm that had finally passed. The confrontation with the captain, the degrading accusations, being stranded in an unknown place, and the long, arduous road to justice had tested every ounce of his patience and resilience. It had been exhausting, both physically and emotionally. Yet now, with each memory, Snoop felt an undeniable sense of pride. Every moment of struggle had been worth it, not just for himself, but for the broader message it sent to the world. He glanced around the sleek cabin, where his team sat nearby, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of overhead lights. Their expressions were a mix of quiet relief and pride, their laughter and occasional murmurs filled with the kind of camaraderie born from shared battles. They hadn't just fought for him, they had fought for what was right. "Cheers to the real ones," Snoop said, raising his glass with a grateful smile that carried the weight of everything unspoken. "Y'all had my back through all of this. I couldn't have done it without you." Kevin, his manager and longtime friend, leaned forward, clinking his glass against Snoop's with a smirk. "Nah, man, this was all you. We just made sure everyone else was watching." Their laughter rippled through the cabin, light and genuine, yet it carried a profound undertone. These weren't just toasts celebrating personal triumphs. They were acknowledgments of the larger fight they had undertaken, a fight for dignity, equality, and the right to be treated with respect. Justice had been served, but the journey wasn't over. They all knew this victory was a chapter, not the conclusion. Snoop leaned back, the warmth of Kevin's words settling over him. He thought about how far they had come since that first moment of humiliation on the plane. The courtroom, the public rallying behind him, the endless conversations with lawyers and media, all of it had felt overwhelming at times. But he had pushed through, bolstered by his team and the unwavering support of people from every corner of the world. They weren't just fighting for him, they were fighting for a principle, a belief that no one should endure the kind of treatment he had faced. "Man, this win isn't just mine," Snoop said, his voice thoughtful as he looked at the group around him. "It's all of ours. We stood together, and we showed them what's up." Kevin nodded, his smirk fading into a look of agreement. "You're right, Snoop, but it's also proof of what you've always said. You don't back down from what's right. That's why people follow you." The others nodded in agreement, their expressions a mix of admiration and pride. The jet hummed softly, the cabin filled with a palpable sense of unity and shared accomplishment. As the Maldives came into view below, with its turquoise waters shimmering in the sunlight, Snoop allowed himself a small smile. This trip had started as a chance to escape, to rest from the relentless demands of his life. But it had become something much greater, a symbol of resilience and justice. The pristine beaches waiting for him now felt like a well-deserved respite, not just from his work, but from the storm he had just weathered. The captain of the flight, a poised black woman with an air of quiet confidence, approached Snoop with a warm smile. "Mr. Broadus," she said, extending her hand, "we'll be landing shortly. It's been an honor to have you on board. Please let us know if there's anything else we can do for you." Snoop shook her hand, gratitude evident in his eyes. "You've already done more than enough. Appreciate you, Captain." As the plane began its descent, the atmosphere in the cabin shifted to one of quiet reflection. Snoop gazed out the window at the breathtaking view below. The shimmering ocean and the soft curve of white sand beaches reminded him of what this moment represented. A triumph not just for himself, but for everyone who had stood beside him. When the jet touched down, the warm tropical breeze greeted him as he stepped onto the tarmac. Resort staff welcomed him with garlands and smiles, their hospitality a stark contrast to the hostility he had faced not long ago. Snoop felt a wave of gratitude, not just for the peace he was finally able to enjoy, but for the journey that had brought him here. Looking back at the jet one last time, Snoop reflected on the battles fought and the strength it had taken to get here. This was more than a victory. It was a reminder of what resilience and unity could accomplish. And while the fight for justice was far from over, Snoop knew this moment was worth celebrating. With a renewed sense of purpose, he turned toward the horizon, ready to embrace the peace and possibilities that lay ahead. The jet began its descent, signaling their imminent arrival in the Maldives. The captain, a poised and self-assured black woman with a serene demeanor, stepped into the cabin and approached Snoop's seat with a kind smile. "Mr. Broaddus," she said, extending her hand, "it's truly an honor to have you on board. We'll be landing shortly. If there's anything we can do to make the rest of your flight more enjoyable, please don't hesitate to let us know." Snoop met her handshake with a nod of appreciation, his voice carrying a tone of genuine gratitude. "Thank you, Captain. Y'all already went above and beyond. I appreciate the care you've shown." As the plane began its final descent, Snoop turned to look out the window, the turquoise waters of the Indian Ocean glistening under the sun. The pristine white sands of the Maldives slowly came into view, the landscape resembling a postcard brought to life. He let out a slow breath, feeling a wave of peace wash over him. This wasn't just a destination anymore. It was a sanctuary, a place where he could leave behind the weight of recent events and embrace the tranquility he had fought so hard to reclaim. The jet touched down with a smooth landing, and as Snoop stepped off, the warm tropical breeze greeted him like an old friend. The resort staff awaited him with garlands of vibrant flowers and welcoming smiles, their hospitality a stark contrast to the hostility he had endured on his previous flight. Here, there were no flashing cameras, no intrusive eyes, just the promise of serenity. As he was escorted to a sleek golf cart waiting on the tarmac, Snoop paused for a moment, his gaze sweeping across the breathtaking view. This trip, which had begun as a simple getaway, now carried a much deeper meaning. The ordeal he had endured wasn't just a personal trial. It had become a symbol of resilience, a fight for dignity and respect, and a reminder of the importance of standing up against injustice. The ride to the resort was quiet, the hum of the cart blending with the soft sound of waves in the distance. Snoop leaned back, his thoughts drifting to everything that had brought him to this point. The confrontation with the captain on that ill-fated flight, the humiliation of being stranded, and the uphill battle for justice. All of it had tested him in ways he hadn't anticipated. Yet, it had also revealed a truth he carried with pride. His resilience was unshakable, and his voice was powerful enough to ignite change. As the cart pulled up to an expansive beachfront villa, Snoop's breath caught for a moment. The property was stunning, with a private pool that seemed to merge seamlessly with the ocean beyond. A sense of gratitude filled him, not just for the luxury of the moment, but for the path he had taken to get here. Every step, every challenge, had shaped this journey and brought him to a place where he could finally exhale. Stepping inside the villa, Snoop took a moment to absorb the tranquil atmosphere. The air smelled of salt and flowers, and the sound of waves crashing against the shore filled the space with a soothing rhythm. Setting his bags down, he walked out onto the patio, where the endless horizon stretched before him, the ocean shimmering like liquid gold under the setting sun. Pulling out his phone, Snoop recorded a short video, his tone steady and reflective. "What's up, y'all?" he began, the soft crash of waves audible in the background. "Just touched down in paradise. Feels good to be here. But I gotta say, it feels even better knowing we made some real change. Shout out to everyone who stood with me through all of this. This ain't just my win, it's ours. Stay strong, stay real, and keep fighting the good fight." After uploading the video, Snoop slipped his phone back into his pocket and leaned against the patio railing. He let the calm of the ocean seep into him, each wave carrying away the tension that had weighed on him for weeks. The road to this moment hadn't been easy, but standing there, watching the sun dip below the horizon, he knew it had been worth every step. This wasn't just a vacation anymore. It was a celebration of resilience, a testament to the power of standing firm in the face of adversity. The battle for justice wasn't over, there was still work to be done. Voices to amplify, and change to inspire. But for now, Snoop allowed himself to embrace the peace he had earned. A peace that spoke not of an ending, but of a new beginning. As he stepped down onto the soft, warm sand, the ocean called to him, its endless rhythm a reminder of life's continuity. With each step toward the water, the trials of the past faded further into memory. The fight for justice had left its mark, but it had also shown him the strength he carried within. And as he waded into the gentle waves, feeling the cool embrace of the sea, Snoop knew one thing for certain: the future was bright, and he was ready for whatever it held. Stepping into his beachfront villa, Snoop paused for a moment to take it all in. The space was nothing short of breathtaking, modern yet warm, with wide glass doors that opened to reveal a private pool seamlessly blending into the ocean beyond. The gentle breeze carried the scent of salt water and flowers, wrapping him in a sense of tranquility that had eluded him for weeks. This wasn't just a villa, it was a haven, a place to finally breathe and let go of the weight of recent struggles. Setting his bags down near the entryway, Snoop made his way toward the patio, each step feeling lighter than the last. The view was mesmerizing. The endless expanse of the horizon stretched out before him, painted in hues of gold and blue as the sun began its slow descent. The rhythmic sound of the waves crashing against the shore created a melody that seemed to sync perfectly with the steady beating of his heart. He leaned against the railing, letting the moment sink in. The ocean seemed to whisper a promise of renewal, and for the first time in what felt like ages, he allowed himself to smile. Pulling out his phone, Snoop tapped the record button, the soft sound of the waves serving as the perfect backdrop. "What's up, y'all?" he began, his voice steady and grounded, carrying a quiet power that came from having faced adversity and overcome it. "Just touched down in paradise. Man, it feels good to be here. But you know what? It feels even better knowing we made some real change." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle before continuing. "Big shout out to everybody who stood with me. This ain't just my win. It's ours. Stay strong, stay real, and keep fighting the good fight." He ended the video with a confident nod, the kind that spoke volumes about his determination and resilience. After uploading the clip, he slipped the phone back into his pocket and turned his attention once more to the ocean. The gentle breeze tousled his hair as he stood there, reflecting on everything that had brought him to this moment. This wasn't just about a vacation anymore. It was about reclaiming peace after a battle that had tested him in every way. It was a moment to acknowledge the strength it had taken to fight back and the community that had stood behind him every step of the way. As the sun dipped closer to the water, painting the sky in rich oranges and purples, Snoop knew that this was more than an ending. It was a new beginning, a reminder of why he fought and for whom he would continue to fight. Snoop's fingers lingered on his phone as the video uploaded, the progress bar completing with a final click. Sliding the device back into his pocket, he exhaled deeply, letting a small but meaningful smile cross his face. The rhythmic crash of the waves filled the air, a soothing reminder that for the first time in weeks, he could truly let go. The battle was over, yet its resonance would stretch far beyond this moment, rippling through lives and hearts for years to come. Stepping barefoot onto the soft, warm sand, Snoop felt the earth grounding him with each step. The ocean, vast and endless, seemed to call to him, its gentle waves beckoning like an old friend. Every stride felt like shedding layers of tension, each grain of sand pressing against his feet, erasing a fragment of the weight he had carried. The memories of the trial, the relentless media coverage, and the overwhelming flood of global support swirled in his mind. It wasn't just his fight. It had become a collective voice, a united stand against injustice. He thought of the passengers who had spoken up with unwavering courage, recounting the events they had witnessed. Their words had painted a vivid picture of the hostility and abuse he had endured, dismantling the defense of a man who had long hidden behind his uniform. Then there were the flight attendants who had testified despite their initial fear, their trembling voices giving power to the truth. They had chosen to stand with him, to challenge a culture of silence and complicity. But it wasn't just those in the courtroom who had stood by him. Snoop recalled the flood of messages from millions around the world, fans, activists, and even strangers who had rallied to his side. Their tweets, posts, and public demonstrations had turned his personal struggle into a worldwide movement. Together, they had proven something profound: prejudice and abuse of power could not be brushed aside. Not anymore. The trial had been grueling, every moment a reminder of the uphill battle he was fighting, not just for himself but for countless others. It wasn't just about clearing his name or restoring his dignity. It was about breaking a cycle of systemic injustice. It was about giving a voice to those who had been silenced, dismissed, or judged for something as shallow as their appearance. As Snoop stood at the edge of the shore, the water lapping gently at his feet, he felt the depth of what they had achieved together. The airline's public apology had been a hard-won victory, a moment of reckoning that came only after immense pressure. Their commitment to overhauling their diversity training and policies marked a step forward, a glimmer of hope that real change could happen. Yet, for Snoop, the true victory lay elsewhere. It wasn't in the corporate statements or the headlines. It was in the millions of conversations sparked by his story. It was in the awareness that had been raised, the hearts that had been moved, and the resolve of those who now understood that change was not only necessary but possible. And then there was the captain, a man who had wielded his authority recklessly, his prejudice unchecked until it reached a breaking point. Stripped of his pilot's license and sentenced to prison, he had become more than a disgraced professional. He had become a symbol that accountability was not just a word but a principle that must be upheld, a reminder that actions have consequences, even for those in positions of power. Snoop let the water rise and recede around his ankles, its cool touch a balm against the lingering sting of his memories. He had come to the Maldives for peace, but this trip had become something far greater. It was a testament to resilience, to the strength it took to fight back and win. It was a reminder that even in the face of blatant hostility, even when the odds seemed insurmountable, the truth had the power to prevail. The light of the setting sun painted the horizon in vibrant hues of orange and gold, its reflection dancing on the surface of the waves. Snoop closed his eyes for a moment, letting the sounds of the ocean fill his senses. This place, this moment, was a sanctuary, not just from the chaos of recent weeks, but from a lifetime of battles that had shaped him into the man he was. He knew the work wasn't finished, that the fight for equality and justice was far from over. But for now, he allowed himself to revel in the quiet triumph of the moment. As the tide gently receded, Snoop turned back toward his villa, each step feeling lighter than the last. The beach stretched ahead of him, endless and full of possibilities, much like the journey still ahead. He knew that the battle he had fought was just one chapter in a larger story. But he also knew that this chapter had mattered, not just to him, but to everyone who had ever felt the sting of prejudice, everyone who had ever been told they didn't belong. Inside the villa, the warm glow of the setting sun illuminated the space, casting long shadows that seemed to whisper of renewal. Snoop sat on the edge of the patio, his gaze fixed on the horizon, pulling out his phone once more. He opened the video he had recorded earlier, letting it play back. The words he had spoken carried more weight now as he listened. "This ain't just my win, it's ours. Stay strong, stay real, and keep fighting the good fight." He smiled, the kind of smile born not from relief but from resolve. The ripples of his actions were still spreading, touching lives in ways he couldn't yet fully comprehend. The battle may have been behind him, but its lessons would guide him forward. And as the waves continued their timeless dance with the shore, Snoop knew one thing with certainty: this was only the beginning. As the sun sank beneath the horizon, its golden rays giving way to streaks of fiery orange and soft pink, Snoop Dogg found himself lost in quiet reflection. The sky, a canvas of fleeting brilliance, mirrored the journey he had traveled, not just over the past tumultuous weeks, but throughout his life. The road he had walked had been far from easy, paved with challenges and hard-fought battles. Yet, it had shaped him, molded him into the resilient, determined man who now sat at the edge of the world, watching its beauty unfold. The soft glow of twilight enveloped the villa, casting a golden hue over the tranquil surroundings. Snoop reclined in his chair by the pool, the soothing sound of waves in the distance blending seamlessly with the gentle rustle of palm leaves swaying in the breeze. The air was tinged with the faint aroma of salt and tropical blossoms, a sensory reminder of the serenity that had drawn him here. This wasn't just a getaway, it was a sanctuary, a place where the chaos of recent weeks faded into the background, allowing him to reclaim the peace he had fought so hard to earn. As he gazed out at the endless expanse of the ocean, his thoughts drifted to the villagers who had come to his aid in his moment of greatest need. Their faces, etched with kindness and an unshakable sense of humanity, remained vivid in his mind. These were people who owed him nothing, yet they had shown up when it mattered most, their actions shining like a beacon in the dark. Strangers in an unfamiliar land, they had extended hands of compassion instead of turning away, a choice that left an indelible mark on him. Their generosity, despite their limited means, spoke volumes. They had offered him not just food, shelter, and care, but something far greater, reaffirmation of the power of empathy and community. These were people who understood what it meant to rise above adversity, who embodied the belief that humanity, at its core, could be compassionate and selfless. In their small acts of kindness, they had shown Snoop the profound strength that came from meeting challenges with open hearts rather than clenched fists. Leaning back, he closed his eyes for a moment, letting the memories wash over him like the rhythmic tide. The gratitude he felt wasn't just for their actions, but for the reminder that even in a world rife with division, there were still pockets of unwavering goodness. Their example was a lesson he would carry with him, a testament to the fact that no matter how dark the moment, the light of compassion could always shine through. As the first stars began to dot the evening sky, Snoop felt a renewed sense of purpose stirring within him. He had promised himself that he would find a way to repay their kindness, not just with words, but with meaningful action. Their generosity had inspired him to pay it forward, to be the kind of force for good that they had been for him. And while he didn't yet know exactly how he would honor that promise, he knew one thing for certain: their impact on his life was immeasurable, and he wouldn't let it go unanswered. The breeze carried the scent of the ocean and the faint hum of distant waves, grounding him in the present moment. This villa, this peace, and this reflection were more than just a retreat. They were a reset. Here, under the vast canopy of stars and in the quiet comfort of gratitude, Snoop found himself ready to move forward, driven by the lessons of compassion and resilience gifted to him by those who had shown him the true power of humanity. Snoop promised himself that he would find a way to repay their kindness. It wasn't just a personal commitment. It was a reflection of his belief that moments of grace, no matter how small, deserve to be amplified. He had always understood the power of giving back, but this experience had solidified that belief. Whether through his foundation or another creative endeavor, he would ensure that the light these villagers had shown him would shine on others as well. The soothing rhythm of the waves echoed in the background, each crash a gentle reminder of life's natural ebb and flow. Snoop closed his eyes for a moment, letting the sound wash over him, grounding him in the present. The sea, vast and unending, felt like a metaphor for the journey still ahead. There were battles yet to fight, lessons yet to learn, and victories yet to achieve. But in this moment, he allowed himself the rare luxury of simply being, of resting, of existing without the weight of the world pressing on his shoulders. He opened his eyes and glanced at the sky, now transitioning into a deep indigo as the first stars began to emerge. Each one seemed to twinkle with promise, a reminder that even in the darkest times, there was light to guide the way. The stars brought with them a sense of renewal, a quiet affirmation that his fight for justice, equality, and respect was far from over, but it was a fight worth continuing. The memories of the trial surfaced again, unbidden but welcome. He thought of the passengers who had spoken out, their courage cutting through the noise of excuses and denials. He remembered the flight attendants, trembling yet resolute, who had testified to the truth, and he reflected on the countless voices from around the world, fans, activists, and strangers alike, who had rallied behind him, transforming his personal struggle into a universal call for change. Their support had turned a single man's fight into a movement, a collective stand against prejudice and abuse of power. The airline's public apology, coupled with its pledge to overhaul internal policies, was a small but significant victory. It was a testament to the power of accountability, proof that even the largest institutions could be made to listen when the people demanded it. And the captain? Stripped of his license and sentenced to prison. He now stood as a symbol of the consequences of unchecked bias. His downfall wasn't about vengeance, it was about justice, about showing the world that no one was above the law. As Snoop stared out at the horizon, a faint smile tugged at the corners of his lips. This was more than a victory, it was a new beginning. The journey ahead would be long, and the fight for equality would demand persistence. But he felt ready to continue the work, to use his platform to amplify the voices of the unheard, and to ensure that no one else would endure what he had faced. The breeze picked up slightly, rustling the leaves of the palm trees that framed the villa. It carried with it a sense of possibility, a whisper of hope that the best was yet to come. Snoop took a deep breath, his heart steady, his resolve unshaken. The fight wasn't over. It never really would be. But he had proven that change was possible, that resilience could overcome even the most entrenched barriers. As the stars multiplied across the night sky, Snoop felt a profound sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the journey, for the lessons, and for the people who had stood by him when it mattered most. He thought of his family, his team, and the millions who had supported him from afar. They were his strength, his reason for continuing to push forward. Standing up, he walked to the edge of the patio, his silhouette framed against the endless sea. The sound of the waves mingled with the distant chirping of crickets, creating a symphony of calm. He reached into his pocket, pulling out his phone, and opened the video he had recorded earlier. Watching it again, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. His words, spoken from the heart, carried the weight of his journey and the promise of what was yet to come. This ain't just my win. It's ours. Stay strong, stay real, and keep fighting the good fight. With one last glance at the horizon, Snoop turned and stepped inside the villa. The night was still young, and the future awaited. For now, he would rest, recharge, and prepare for the road ahead. Because while this chapter had reached its end, the story was far from over.